Boom. There we go. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the stream. I'm gonna try to adjust things. I've got a new chair and it sits higher. I'm excited about that, but it's gonna change the camera angle a little bit. So I'm just trying to figure this out for you. Oh, welcome everybody. Monday. It's a Monday night here at Flawed Man of God, and I am your host, Stuart Davis, Flawed Man of God, here to welcome you to this little place on the internet I've created for us, people of the faith, from varying points in our journey to follow Christ. Those of us who are well versed, well educated, and way past me in their maturity and faith, all the way till the very beginner, the person who is just dipping their toes into the faith, maybe just here to find out more of what it's like, what it might be like to be around Christians talking about what Christianity means to us and how that affects our lives and how we interact with each other in that. But that's why I created this. It's a place where we can discuss how Christianity relates to the world around us, to current events, to what's to our environment, etc. And what we're doing right now is we're in the middle of a multi-year project. We're several years into this at this point, but we are reading through the Bible, a couple chapters a night, in order from Genesis to Revelation, the entire Bible. And right now we are on the minor prophets of the Old Testament, just wrapping up the Old Testament. We've got we'll be finishing Habakkuk tonight, and just realized I don't have that pulled up. I've got spoilers. I've got Zephaniah up because we'll be finishing that on Friday. So if you haven't picked up on it yet, the minor prophets are minor, not in their message, but more in the length of their books. And so we do not have much more until we are entering the Gospels, right? And so I welcome you all to a portion of the Bible that we have been in that often seems repetitive, right? And Habakkuk and Zephaniah, they're not going to be any different this week when we're reading through them. Habakkuk wasn't different when we started it. A little bit more poetic than most of what we read on the prophecy side, but it is very much a a cycle of God is warning that Israel or Judah, or the world at large is doing something wrong, has been doing something wrong, and it's time for a change. So the last warnings are given, promises are made. We call it a threat. God intends to keep it. Promises are made, punishment is doled out, and restoration is prophesied as well, right? We see this throughout just the major and the minor prophets as well. Okay, because look, let's face it, we spent a long time reading through Kings and Chronicles, or basically from the Israelites' arrival into the Promised Land, or you can go back to Exodus and study what they were into there. But from that point all the way up until the end of Chronicles, what we see is a repeated pattern of behavior of instruction given, instruction received, instruction ignored, punishment given, God turning his back. Then you see repentance and sorrow and pleading for God to change things. Then you see a restoration, and then rinse, repeat, right? And it's been eventually the point has been made. And God understands this as he knows that what's going to happen already, right? He knows when he tells people, "Hey, look, you're sorry. I'm going to restore. That you're sorry. You've humbled yourself. Sorry about that. You've humbled yourself, and now, um, I'm going to restore my blessings upon you." Right? He knows that that's not going to last. It might not even last the generation. We have examples where he's given kings promises of success if only they are obedient, only to see them immediately abandon him. And that's how it is. So, what we'd like to see here is this is kind of a microcosm in how we all act as individuals and act as a society, right? So often we are folks who are stuck in a sin or stuck in a variety of sins or stuck in just sinful behavior, period, right? And, we get to a point where we're like, I got to stop this. I'm going to knock this off. God, I'm sorry. And then the next day, the next week, whenever, we're right back into our old habits. Trust me, I know. I live that. I have been able to leave some things behind. And that is stuff that I am happy I've been able to do. But there are other times where I'm doing something. I was like, when am I going to knock this off? Because this is stupid. I know better, right? And I'm sure many of you folks can relate when it comes to experiencing that in your life. You're not alone, right? And it can be, it can feel defeating. It's certainly disappointing. You feel disappointed in yourself. I'm sure you feel disappointed when you see it in your friends and family and people you care about and people you don't care about around you when it happens, when they do it. But what should it be as a humbling experience, and the understanding that doing the right thing should be something that comes easy to us, and yet we make it so hard in our just desire to do what will convenience us the most in the moment. That's oftentimes what that is, or what will feed our pride or lust or anger, right? Whatever we can, whatever we want to build in there. We take that path instead of going, no, this is going to suck to walk away from this. It's going to feel like it sucks to walk away from this right now, but I'll feel better in, uh, 5 minutes, 5 hours, or tomorrow morning, right? I'll feel better then. No notification, Matt. Good evening. Well, Matt, welcome to the show. And I didn't put the notification up or I didn't put the stream together until about 8:00 anyway. So, but I did put the stream up for Wednesday and Friday. So let's see how it is. Now, I didn't get into this like I normally do, but I want to go ahead and say it. Welcoming Matt to the chat. We run this very similar to a Sunday school or a study group, right? Small group. So folks who have been to church, you guys probably understand what I'm talking about, but it's a place where we can all got to get together and talk, right? And it's not just me talking. It's you having the opportunity not just to listen, but to contribute and have your say. We're a very small stream. We get very few live viewers a night, and while I wish that was better, I'm certainly content that of what I have, but I also want to welcome you to offer what you have to say. And if you put something in that chat box, I'm going to read it and respond to it. Okay, this is your invitation. This is your opportunity to be heard and be part of the show. Look, this show is better when I'm not the only one talking here. Even though a lot of times when I'm reading, I'm obviously I'm reading from scripture, but you know, I don't. It shouldn't be just my opinion that you're hearing. I want to hear. You should be able to voice yours, um, and have it shared, right? So this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity not to do it for and me feel like I'm obligated to do it. I want to do this, right? I want to read it. I want to respond to it. I want your voice to be heard. And who knows, we might learn something about it. And this is not a denominationally specific stream. Okay. This is for folks who are evangelicals like myself, um, Catholics, Lutherans, Orthodox, Presbyterians, Baptists, you know, we are not sitting there pushing people out because of denomination. And we do have some guardrails up, but we don't need to get into that right now. What we need to do is just understand that we are all believers in the triune God and the God of the universe, and understand the necessities. Okay, we got to stick together, even though we might have differences. Some of them might be significant differences, right? But better to see somebody um, in error, in a little bit of error, or maybe even great error, than fall into disbelief entirely, or walk away from his faith entirely. And certainly, we know that the church, no matter which one you are a part of, is under attack um, from within. Oftentimes, from people who would want to change it to better reflect modern society's values, modern culture's expectations of us. And what we really need to do is stand firm to God's word, because he does not change. He's not a changing God. What is true, was true then, is true now. So that's where I welcome you, right? And I want to be very upfront. I'm not a professional here, right? I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar, right? I haven't been to seminary. I'm not somebody who's going to sit here and have all the answers, or be able to cite sources, right off the bat. I do my fair share of looking things up here on the internet on this show, but it's not something where I've got formal training and education on the matter. What I do have is 40 years of experience in being in the church, being a Christian, and I'm more than happy to share that experience with you guys and answer what questions I can. But I can't promise to answer all of them. But we will at least talk about your question, and maybe we can point you in the right direction, me or somebody in the chat. Right. So, without further ado, this is probably going to be a short stream tonight. We are going to get into the end of Habakkuk. All right. And thankfully, even though it's still painful, I do have my my poison ivy is starting to ebb away and heal up, though it is still painful. I got it right underneath the underside of my knee, and right now it's trying to heal the skin, and so when I move it, it's like it's skin's stretching out, and it's really really kind of painful. So, but I don't feel as nasty as I have over the last week. So pray for me that my healing continues. All right. God's salvation to his people. All right. Habakkuk was warning folks in the previous chapter, much like like other prophets have done. There is punishment, but there is also salvation, right? There's also something to look forward to at the end of the lesson that you got to learn, right? Not suffering so much. I mean, I'm walking around. I look a hot mess, right? But I'll be all right. But thank you, Matt. All right, God's salvation of his people. A prayer of Habakkuk, the prophet, set to wild and enthusiastic music. See, no, don't tell the Lutherans this. Don't tell the Church of Christ community, non-instrumental. Don't tell the folks who get down on us evangelicals about this. But this this verse right here is set to wild and enthusiastic music. I'm not one. Well, good, Matt. I'm glad. Maybe more other people will get it and start joining. Um, I'm actually more of a person who likes a more let's call it reserved music, right? I love the old hymns, which at some point, I guess, a couple of centuries ago were brand new. But I love the old hymns. But I understand, there is like we learn, right, in what was it, Ecclesiastes? It's a time for everything, or is it Isaiah? Which one is it? There's a time for everything. There is a time for very solemn, very reserved, very um I would say holy music, right? And then there is a time to party and celebrate, right? God is a God who has preached to us and given us, say, hey, have these feasts, have these celebrations. God has given us life and performed miracles and done things for us that are worth celebrating. And salvation, and resurrection and talking about that, and the idea that God loves us that much should be something that excites you, that should be something that draws celebration. There should be something that has wild and enthusiastic, um, wild enthusiastic tones to it. And while that can kind of look like it does not take things seriously, maybe you shouldn't. There is times where you need to let loose a little bit. Now you can keep control of yourself, right? That's the idea of living in a way that is, um, you know, in moderation, right? But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy things. That doesn't mean that you can't have a party, right? And so, don't confuse the two times. I think that, when we talk about um the the birth of Christ, right? There is a solemnity in the buildup, but also a celebration of what it represents. And with Easter, right, there is Good Friday. It's a time um, of sadness, right, and guilt, and right there's the solemnity there. That is, this is what our actions, this is what our sin has driven, um, has required, and has necessitated um, Christ's sacrifice. And then 3 days later, Easter, Jesus has resurrected, and he's defeated death, and we celebrate what that, not just the act, but what that act represents and what that means and what that shows the world of what God is capable of and what he has in store for us. That is worth wild and enthusiastic celebration, right? And we see that in different parts of the faith. That you can go to an evangelical church and see them, we are, he is risen, he is risen indeed. You've seen it at Orthodox church, they're literally dancing down the aisles. It's good. You want to see that. We should all take that into consideration. But everybody, when they go, and I'm guilty of it myself, when they get into the oh, look at those guys, the smoke shows and everything. And yeah, it can feel like sometimes it's too much of a spectacle. That doesn't mean you can't have fun with your celebrations and with your praise, right? To me, it's like the difference. Worship is more of a solemn thing, but the praise and the celebration, that should be a very big deal. There's a superscript on wild. What does it say? Let's see. Let's see what the footnote says. I think it's talking about the musical heading suggests that this chapter should be sung. uh, Obvious footnote is obvious. Yes, it's set to wild and enthusiastic music. Yes, you probably want to sing it. I will not be singing it. I will not be singing it wildly and enthusiastically, but maybe I will. maybe I will read it in an enthusiastic way with a smile on my face, even though it's Monday. Maybe this is God telling me, hey, you should have read this on Friday, but you were too busy with the storm and too busy with eating late and too busy with unexpected guests. You should have still streamed on Friday. It would have been more of a reason to celebrate. It's Friday, right? And now it's Monday, right? And now it's like, right. But no matter what day it is, it's the Lord's Day. So, prayer of Habakkuk, the prophet said to wild and enthusiastic music, O Lord, I have heard the report about you and I fear. O Lord, revive your work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make it known. In wrath, earnestly remember compassion and love. God approaching from Sinai comes from Teman, Edom, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Selah. Pause and calmly think of that. His splendor and majesty covers the heavens, and the earth is full of his praise. His brightness is like the sunlight. He has bright rays flashing from his hand. And there, in the sun-like splendor, is the hiding place of his power. Before him goes the pestilence of judgment as in Egypt, and the burning plague of condemnation follows at his feet as in Sennacherib's army. He stood and measured the earth. He looked and startled the nations. Yes, eternal mountains were shattered. The ancient hills bowed low and collapsed. His ways are eternal. I, Habakkuk, in my vision, saw the tents of Cushan under distress. The tent curtains of the land of Midian were trembling. Did the Lord rage against the rivers, or was your anger against the rivers, or was your wrath against the Red Sea that you rode on your horses, on your chariots of salvation? Your bow was made bare, the rods of chastisement were worn. Selah. Pause. Calmly think of that. You split the earth with rivers, bringing waters to dry places. The mountains saw you, and they trembled and writhed as if in pain. The downpour of water swept by as a deluge. The deep uttered its voice and raged. It lifted its hands high. The sun and moon stood at their places as before Joshua, and they went away at the light of your swift arrows, at the radiance and gleam of your glittering spear. In indignation you marched through the earth. In anger you trampled and threshed the nations. You went forth for the salvation of your people, for the salvation and rescue of your anointed people Israel. You struck the head from the house of the wicked to lay him open from the thigh to the neck. Selah. Pause and calmly think of that. With the enemy's own spears, you pierced the heads of his hordes. They stormed out to scatter us, rejoicing like those who secretly devour the oppressed of Israel. You have trampled on the sea with your horses, on the surge of many waters. I heard, and my whole inner self trembled. My lips quivered at the sound. Decay and rottenness entered my bones, and I tremble in my place, because I must wait quietly for the day of distress, for the people to arise who will invade and attack us. Though the fig tree does not blossom, and there is no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive fails, and the fields produce no food, though the flock is cut off from the fold, and there are no cattle in the stalls. Yet I will choose to rejoice in the Lord. I will choose to shout in exultation in the victorious God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength, my source of courage, my invincible army. He's made my feet steady and sure like hinds' feet, and makes me walk forward with spiritual confidence on my high places of challenge and responsibility. For the choir director on my stringed instruments. Yeah, so the footnote here is the musical heading suggests that the chapter should be sung. Let's see. The exact meaning of Selah is unknown. Many think it calls for a pause in the music. So maybe a place where, there's some quiet or a refrain, something like that. Um, and Habakkuk 20 at the end where he says, um, high places of challenge and responsibility. The troubled times of life may actually be the high places of spiritual growth for the believer who remains stable when tested by God. Yeah. Or the believer who um, doesn't remain stable, recognizes what they're doing wrong and improves, right? Not just and doesn't yield, but pushes forward, right? In those times of distress. I like that. But that's what it says, the of high places of challenge and responsibility. When I reach critical points, what I would consider low places in life, obstacles, challenges, tragedy, right? Periods of mourning, periods of times disappointed in yourself or those around you, right? Disappointed in um, events that have unfolded, personal or worldwide. This is your opportunity, right? To make a change for the better. This is an opportunity for you to prove yourself worthy of the moment, right? Standing firm in God's instruction. And so many of us fall away from that. And this is sometimes a challenge for churches, right? When times are tough, right? When the world is after them, will you capitulate and give in to avoid what you fear is going to happen? Or will you stand firm and do what you've said is right, what you know is right? And now the real challenge, the real trial has come. Are you what you say you are? It goes back to the idea if you were um challenged at gunpoint and the guy says, if you deny God or I'm going to shoot you, what do you what do you do? Right? What would you do? And do you want that? Do you want to feel like Peter denying Christ? Um, or do you want to, maybe have your life end, but it ends with God's name on your lips? Right? Are you willing to put that at risk? Are you willing to face that challenge? How much in the faith are you right now? And you might not be there yet, right? It's not necessarily um a place where everybody is, and you can't just say, "Oh, well, I'm a terrible person." It's not the correct. If you're not there yet, you're not you're not all the way there in your faith, but that doesn't mean you're lost. I mean, look again, we could point to Peter, right? Peter is he is somebody who has followed Christ throughout um all the gospel. He's seen the miracles up close. He's been a part of all this. He's spent time with Christ. He even grabbed his sword and cut the ear off of someone to protect Christ. But when confronted and he wasn't prepared, he denied. He let his fear overcome. But did God did when Jesus saw him again after the resurrection, did he give him up? No. No. We know way better than that. Well, I mean, if you guys are new to the game right here, you'll find out in just a few months what we're talking about and really understand the weight of that. And understand because right after Peter is Saul, who becomes Paul. And he certainly has quite the history. But it's not where you've been. What are you doing now and where are you going to? That's part of the important thing that you have to answer as you go through here. And it's not going to be an easy road, and it's not going to be a road where you're perfect. And you're not going to bat 1,000 here. And you have to be prepared for that. And you have to not just be prepared for that for yourself, you're going to be prepared for that for the people around you. People are going to let you down, just like you let yourself down, just like you let them down. They're just, and think maybe they feel the same way. You try to hold everybody accountable as if but you better expect that they should try to hold you accountable as well. Support each other, right? And that's and all this time we're talking about the end, and we haven't even talked about everything leading up to that, right? We talked about celebrating wild music. We got the laser show going on, but it starts off with some fear, right? Habakkuk is like, I've heard a report about you. I'm fearful of you, and we know that there's punishment that's coming. We know that there's your wrath is right behind the corner. We know that doesn't bode well for us because we brought this on ourselves. And his brightness is like the sunlight. And bright flashing rays from his hands. There in the sunlight splendor is the hiding place of his power. And he mentions, he goes, God, punished Egypt with pestilence and plagues, right? And they lost a lot, more than ultimately they were willing to lose. And that's when and it cost them dearly for that. But this is, if God did that, what else can he do? If God's done this thing, well, he is nothing if not creative and I don't want to say ironic. That's not the right word, but he has a poetic way of going about this. Like I said, the whole idea of the Babylonians, a very worldly and heathen culture, overrunning and sacking Judah and Israel, is interesting because that's the world that Israel and Judah acted like they wanted to live in. That's how they were behaving, right? They wanted all the blessings of God, but they wanted to behave like without any of the responsibility, without any of the rules, without any of the stuff that God had set, the instructions God had put before them. They just wanted it for free. And so God turned his back on them and said, look, can't have it both ways. And I've warned you and warned you and warned you, and I've given you chance after chance after chance. So now turning my back on you, and we'll see how this goes for you. He stood and measured the earth. He looked and startled the nations. Yes, the eternal, and that's what he said. He goes, I measured this. I found all of this wanting. And God's power is so great that the entire earth reacts to him. The entire universe around us reacts to his wrath, his joy, and his will, right? Did the Lord rage against the rivers, or was it your anger against the rivers, or was your wrath against the Red Sea that you rode on your horses, on your chariots of salvation? And that's what I said. Everything, your bow was made bare. You were humbled. Rods of chastisement were sworn, and that's what it was. That's what we see. And it's not just Israel. It's not just Judah. It's the entire world. They're all understanding in a way that God's power is great and that there's lessons to be learned. They're not going to keep relearning them. They're going to still make some more mistakes, certainly. We know this. We know this in our own lives. A reminder of the sun and the moon stood in their places as before Joshua, and they went away at the light of your swift arrows and the radiance and gleam of your glittering spear. He illustrates the power and the majesty of God and how on top of the world and how in control he is. What's going on, Jenny? Then he starts talking about the salvation, rescued the anointed, struck the head from the house of the wicked, lay him open from thigh to neck, right? He conquered the enemies. With their own spears, you killed them and scattered them. And they thought that they had beaten you, but they didn't. You hear, and Habakkuk talks about this. I heard, and my whole inner self trembled. My lips quivered at the sound. Must wait quietly for the days of distress, for the people to arise and who will invade and attack us. I know this is coming. God has warned me. It doesn't matter whether the fig tree does through feast, through famine, right? And through famine and drought and times of tribulation, he still will rejoice for the Lord, because the Lord has promised restoration. It doesn't matter. That's the side of good. That's the side of right. And it doesn't matter if things are going well for us or poorly for us. That's where we want to be. And that's when we say that things aren't transactional, right? I once had a guy tell me that at the deep down, all faith is self-serving and self-interest. And that is a very jaded and cynical way to look at things. And I felt sorry for that guy for feeling that that's what was left of his faith, right? It was just, I just want that it's something, there's something in it for me. And I think that there should be something more. You should feel more than that. You should feel more than that. You should feel joy at just seeing the providence of God and his will being done. And seeing that there is right and there is justice and there is a reckoning for all things that be made right. But there's also redemption and grace and forgiveness. And that is, too, a wonderful thing that isn't just wonderful because it's transactional. It's wonderful because it exists. Because we know deep in our heart, we know that it's right. Right? When we're honest with ourselves. So that's how you should look at this. And I think that's what a great way to end a book of prophecy that is talking about doom and talking about failures and talking about, punishment, but and talking that there are going to be tough roads, but that end thing is those tough roads, I welcome them, because God gave me a life to face those tough roads. And God has given me a promise of restoration on the other end. So, and that's our stream for tonight. That's the stream. And Matt and Jenny, thank you for being part of the chat. Love you guys. Always appreciate you guys coming in, even if it's to say hello to each other, to see what's going on. I always welcome your presence, and y'all make this show better. And that is why you'll always get credit at the end. It's the credits rolling, right? After them comes the folks who are listening, and I don't know your names because I don't know who's listening, but I'm happy you're here, and I'm glad you found something that you continually return to. Just understand that I do want to hear from you, right? I'm not just putting that out there, and take advantage. I'm not a monetized channel. I'm not a channel that uses super chats or any of that stuff. But do it for the love of the game, right? And we're small enough where it's easy. It's easy to get your 2 cents worth in. So, yeah, let it be known. What do you want to see by this? Trust me, you're not going to be the only one who has tried to speak up. Right? Matt does that all the time. When Nernaeth is here, he does it. When Emmanuel Osorio is on, he does it. Right? And there's a host of others who will do it as well. Veritax, right? And it's always welcome, right? It's always welcome. So, oh yeah. So, yeah, thanks to you guys as well. I understand maybe you don't want to speak up, or maybe you can't. It's okay. And Jenny's joining the replay crew, which I'm just ready to talk about now. And finally, thanks to the replay crew, guys. First off, thank you for watching. Right. I'm sorry I missed you, and I hope to catch you live sometime. Like I'm catching Jenny right now, even though she's going to go catch the replay. Everybody have a good night, and God bless.